Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 407. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's going on?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the comics we read this week. It's that simple. On this week's show, we have Batman 147, Birds of Prey issue 9, Shazam issue 11. Matt will be talking about Poison Ivy 22. We got The Boy Wonder issue 1, a new Black Label book. We'll be looking at that. And then I've got a Patreon book. I'll be talking about the Batman and the Outsiders annual issue 1 from the classic 80s run. So that is what's coming up on today's show. Yes. So, yes. Hello, everyone. It's comic book time. It's that time of the week. It's summer. It's today and yesterday's the first days that have felt like bordering on uncomfortable warm. So we're kind of hitting that area now, that time of year.
What's uncomfortable warm for you?
I mean, admittedly, in a month's time, I don't think this will be uncomfortable warm. I think it's just uncomfortable because it's the first time I've hit it in like nearly a year. But right now it's like 22 degrees Celsius. Okay,
so I just converted ours. We're at 25 right now.
Yeah, 25 will be uncomfortable for me no matter what once we start hitting that. 21, 22 will feel okay once I'm used to 25.
Yeah.
That's the sequence of events. I mean, it's really just about humidity, though. Like, there's going to be sucky days. I just have to brace myself for it. Some years are worse than others. I'm just going to have to go in with a clear attitude and go to see more movies because there's air conditioning at the movie theater. So
yes, that's a good trade.
So that's
air conditioning and a movie.
Yeah, and probably ice cream because it's summer and I want something cold.
Yes.
So. Yes.
You do Slurpees over there? They got the ices?
Yeah. If I that's probably my go-to more than anything.
Yeah.
That said, though, I feel like every 2 years they change the name of them. I think it's an icy right now.
Yeah.
But they have been ice junkies. They've been ice blasts. They've been slushies. They've been. I feel like there's like 8 names for them, and I think every time I go to get one, I'll just randomly pick one in my brain, and they always know what I'm talking about. They never question what I'm asking for. But, like, I swear I interchange whatever name I'm using every single time I ask for
one. As long as you get the flavor right, I'm sure they'll know what you're talking about. You know, if you're asking for a cherry and they ain't got cherry, then it'll be a problem. But, that's what my wife usually does. Although, I've accumulated so many points through the Regal app that I have to use them or lose them. And so, because I use a different app to get my tickets, I never can use it on tickets, so it's literally just snacks. So come to find out, for a small upgrade, you can get a free icy for the same, almost the same as a drink. So, she's been charging through my points that way every time we go to a movie.
Yeah, I just get a free ticket every couple of months.
That's how ours used to be. Now they make you, accumulate the points and then spend the points. But I don't want to deal with a bunch of different apps.
Well, no, it's still points for me. I mean, I can use it on snacks if I want to. I just choose to use it on tickets because it's that's the easiest thing to do is just wait until I've got enough for a ticket and get one.
It used to just base it off of every X amount. So you used to have to keep them too, so they would print it out for you, right? So it would always go drink, popcorn, ticket, and we'd go enough that I could over the course of the summer I could get at least 2 or 3. Free movie tickets.
Yeah, it just works like credit. Like it'll just be on my account how much I've got, and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to use that for this thing?" And I'll be like, either if I say yes, then they'll just use it. If I say no, then I'll just get points. That's fine.
Right.
Anywho, I went to the movies twice this week, so
good on you. I have not. I was on vacation, and we were out and about and being outside. In fact, yesterday I woke up to the sounds of seagulls, and this morning none, and it's so much drier, and I feel like garbage, and it makes me question why my family moved here all those decades and decades ago. But yeah, no movies, but when we're done recording today, I'm gonna go see the new Apes, so I'm excited.
I saw it yesterday. I will keep my thoughts to myself because the episode reviewing it will be out early next week. So but I will say I am thankful that I have no plans to see either Transformers 1 or Bad Boys 4 because I got trailers for those twice this week, and I'm good.
You know, I haven't seen the third Bad Boys, but I am upset that they called that one For Life when there was another one down the way
Yeah,
that was going to be four.
it seems short-sighted not to save that for
Yeah,
the fourth one.
yeah,
Like, you could have called the third one Ride or Die, and that would have been
right.
fine. No one would have cared.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just call it Bad Boys 3. This fear of numbers and sequels
Yeah,
is mind-numbing, but still.
that's silly.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a busy month for the movies, I think. But I'll to be honest, for me, it slows down significantly for June and July. Like, I feel like there's a lot in May, but June and July are pretty quiet. So
Let's see.
it's,
All I know is I'm counting down towards Twisters, so that's my next most anticipated movie.
I mean, it's in July, but it's like the only thing in July, and I wouldn't say I'm counting down for it. Like, I'm sure it might be fun, but like, it's not that.
But you're not me, who unapologetically loves the first one. So, you know, I can't believe that we're my wife corrected me on the math, that we're at 28 years, not 18 years. I don't like that numbers are adding up like that since the last one, and I'm that excited. So hopefully it's good.
Well, I was in primary school when the first one came out, so yeah, that the numbers add up.
yeah. I mean, so was I, and I mean, I think fifth grade I was in when that movie dropped, and I got very into meteorology because I wanted to be a storm chaser, and it actually helped me with my science work in class. So, but no, I really love that first one. It's a good time. And the second one I got a trailer for when the last time I went to the movies. I got a trailer for it, and whoever did the sound mixing, the theater was shaking, so that's a good sign in the trailer. So,
we'll see. But yeah, so, I mean, we'll just get the Comixology top 10. We just fire in. We see what the numbers are. Obviously, yes, it's not called that anymore. I usually do my introduction. I don't know. I'm in a loosey goosey mood today. I don't feel like sticking to rigid speech that I normally hit you with. So let's just look at what's ranking right now on the Kindle store for comics. Tuesday, Wednesday are separated. So Matt, what's your guess for Wednesday?
hold on. There's nothing else. I'm gonna go with Batman.
It is Batman. It's a boring correct answer, but there it is. Number 2, interestingly, is The Boy Wonder. Issue 1. Number 3 is Birds of Prey. Number 4 is Shazam. Number 5 is Kneel Before Zod. And then number 6 is Poison Ivy. 7 is Suicide Squad Kill Arkham Asylum. Which you can tell I've done a lot of books there because Poison Ivy's not been doing well for a long time. So the fact that that's at number 6 lets you know, even before we get to like the end of the single issues, that there's just not that many this week. Number 8 is the Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries. And then number 9 is a collection for Masters of the Universe. And number 10 is a collection for Steelworks. So, yeah, not a lot of books out this week from DC. So that's week 1 right now. I suspect this is all going to feel really shaken up when the event hits and we start getting tie-ins and all the rest of it. Wednesday, do we have a guess for number 1?
I'm looking, so I didn't go into the shop this week, so I didn't get a chance to see what actually was dropping in large numbers physically. So I'll take a random guess and say Transformers.
That is incorrect.
Okay, let's see. What else is next? That would be a next big one. It is a Marvel book, though?
It is, yes.
Okay. Then let me get Avengers 14.
That is incorrect, Matt. You're really not doing good this week for the Wednesday. No, number 1 is X-Men Forever.
Where's that at? Oh, there it is. I had to keep scrolling. It was past. Usually I don't go past 3, because usually it's in the top, 2 rows. So that did not come up in the first. Actually, it came in at 12. So, wow.
I think you're just blind. Yeah, by Karen Gillan's alternate universe twin, Kieran Gillan.
Yeah.
So number 2 is Wolverine. Number 3 is Transformers. Number 4 is Avengers. Number 5 is Giant Size X-Men. Number 6 is Amazing Spider-Man. 7 is Blood Hunters, which is a Marvel book. It's a number 1, by the looks of it.
Looks like supernatural stuff.
Yeah. Hawkeye seems to be on the cover,
Uh,
along with Emma Frost or someone else in white. Some blonde.
yeah. Oh, it's Dagger or from Cloak and Dagger,
Oh, okay.
and Man-Wolf. So
I did
yeah.
see a wolf. I didn't know if that was a specific
Yes.
character or there was just a werewolf on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
I will kind of say that corner of Marvel's not an area of knowledge for me.
Yeah. Oh.
Number 8 is Doctor Strange. Number 9 is Dracula Blood Hunt, which is Marvel, but vampire book. And then number 10 is Fantastic Four. So, and they've still got some big books after. I mean, Daredevil's number 11. There's a Captain America book at number 15. So, yeah, bunch of things going on at Marvel this week. So, yeah. Any interesting indies reasonably high up? There's another Transformers book at number 12. You've got Jeff Johns' Geiger book at number, what's that, 16? Yeah, so, okay. There you go. That's this week's comic rankings based on the sales order from the Kindle store as of now at the time of recording. It might change by the time you go and look, so don't at us, don't correct anything. It's fine. It is what it is when I looked. Right?
Yes.
It moves.
At the time of recording.
It always moves just to make me look foolish. But yes, that is that. So there's actually one bit of news to talk about this week. Not comic book specific related, but we did see the Superman outfit for the Superman movie that's coming in 2025. James Gunn put out a photo, and I'm just going to say it. There's a high collar, and the cape's attached at the shoulders instead of being tucked in. Two things that are instant no-nos for me when it comes to Superman costumes. So I will say it could have been better.
So, knowing what I think we know from casting and whatever, I am hoping that we're going to start with that new 52 looking suit, and by the end he'll be in something more classic.
That's just copium. That is copium, Matt.
No, because, again, not ideal with the high collar and the attached cape. It's a bit too Kryptonian for my liking. But I trust Gunn enough. I trust Gunn to get to a point, because it also has what looks like the Kingdom Come S, right?
But we've known that for months at this point.
Right, so, it seems like it's a later stage type, Superman, and I'm just hoping maybe part of the story is him realizing of,
I don't think it is a later stage Superman. I think the concept for this has always been that it's been an early days Superman story.
I mean, that's so weird. That's a weird flex then to draw on that iconography of later stage stuff, like the Kingdom Come S and I don't know, the Justice League.
I remember that being when they initially pitched the movie. It's early. It's not an origin story, but it's an early days Superman story. So I'm making no assumptions about the movie here. I really I think it's silly to sort of use this outfit to even try and predict anything. I am just judging it as I see it. It looks a little bit busy in its design. There's a lot of little lines and etchings on it to try and give it the appearance of more and whatnot. Plus, there's always the high collar and the way the cape's attached. They're just nose for me. They've always been those. I remember in Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman in the 90s, they started with the classic tuck-in, and then they started switching to one that was just sort of glued onto the shoulders, and I always thought that looked much worse. That's where I developed my taste for not liking that. That's where I really started to hate that, because I got annoyed. Because they sometimes went back to the first one. It was almost like, depending what costume was on set for that episode, it would change which one, or maybe all their versions of one were dirty, so they'd have to go back to the old one. But either way, whenever I saw the classic one again, I got annoyed that they'd switched to this one with it, because otherwise it was the same. That was the only thing that was different about the outfits on that show, was the shoulders. But not a big fan of the. I mean, don't get me wrong, this isn't a game a deal breaker by any means. If the movie's great in every other respect, this will be a minor quibble. But if I'm picking the suit I would prefer, this is just a little bit off from what I actually want.
Yeah. Now, what do you think of the image as a whole? Like him putting on the boots while it looks like some global catastrophe is happening behind him.
I would like to make fun of James Gunn a little bit, because he posted it and said this was done in camera. It's a real, photograph from set, and I'm like, okay, I get that you mean that the photo of him is a real shot from set, but there's a big CGI laser beam outside the window, so you can't just say that, James. You have to specify a little bit more than that, because I immediately went, well, that's wild. They got a big alien spaceship firing a laser beam outside the window for real.
Dang, he really is about that cinema verite now, isn't he?
I think
makes you wonder about Starro now.
I think it's a bit of a stupid image in the set. Well, not stupid, but like, this is very much a promotional image, right? Because I've seen people make fun of it. Oh, he's casually putting on his boot as this is all going on. Like, no, of course, this isn't an actual moment from the movie. This is just a photograph they're taking to show off the suit, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not casually putting his outfit on this slow whilst this is happening outside. It's just a promotional shot. It's meant to have a fun background, even though it makes no sense in the context. Of course, he'd speed off and rip the shirt open and wish it super speed to get there, whatever. So yeah, I mean the whole thing's just a bit whatever. It's emblematic of just a kind of uninspired debut shot. I think of the first time we saw the Man of Steel outfit. It was that image of him like sort of leaning against the bank vault, remember? And it was all in shadow, and it was like, is this really how you're showing off the suit for the first time, kind of thing? This is a constant thing we go through, this dance we go through every time there's a new Superman of some kind. We get the first image of them in the outfit, and like maybe they overthink it. Maybe just a nice brightly lit shot of him standing there, which funnily enough is what the first Christopher Reeve Superman photograph is. It's just him standing there under a good bit of lighting with his arms sort of, politely folded.
And he looks like, I know Christopher Reeve was a big guy, but they shot him to look larger than life there too, which I wonder if there's intent in Gunn doing the casual to make him, seem not as large as life. So
yeah, I mean, I will say the hair looked right. It looked Superman classic hair.
I think Cornsweat looks the part, like.
Yeah, his
he
face
doesn't seem out of place.
Does. Yeah, his face looks right for sure.
And he fills out the suit pretty well, despite the quibbles on the design of the suit. He fits it pretty well.
I think the problem with the over design and how thick the material is, it makes it feel less impressive. Like, when someone's in spandex, they look good if they look good, right? The person themselves has to have a good shape, and then that makes it look good. I think when you have kind of this sort of like rubbery bagginess to it, because that's my main problem with it, with the shoulders, and it reminded me of CW outfits, not the Superman outfit in the CW specifically, but like the first Flash outfit in the CW, it was almost like a leather jacket kind of like vibe because of the way the sleeves were a little bit baggy,
with shoulder pads.
So it's the shoulder pads and the bagginess, and it's not that bad. I'm not saying I wouldn't call this a baggy top if someone was normally wearing. I'm saying compared to a superhero costume, it looks baggy. And that feels a little bit cheaper to me. So, like, we're having, like, this is, I hate these type of nerd conversations because we're sitting having a 10-minute conversation about a stupid outfit that's not that important. But, like, if we're nitpicking it and we're saying what we like and dislike about it, these are the things that I would say make it more mediocre to me than, like, a home run. Don't get me wrong. Like, it could be much worse. They could be like, oh, we want to be edgy. We're going to have a black suit and we're going to have, like, a neon strip around his ankles that light up like glow sticks because we want to have this new techno Superman.
I remember some of the stuff that was coming out when Nick Cage was going to be Superman and him talking about wanting to have a samurai-style top knot. So... I'm thankful this is more closer to
like this is
our interpretation.
Like, I don't really like this outfit, but I don't like it in the sense that it's like it's a mediocre version of what I like. Rather than being like this completely extreme, silly thing that came out of nowhere. But uninspired all the same, I guess. But hey, all right. Well, there you go. And nothing to do with DC. The Cast Galactus this week. I don't know if you care.
Yeah. But... No, I saw that. That's pretty cool. I'm not familiar with the actor, but I've heard good things. People seem to be excited.
Really? I've seen him in he's got a very recognizable voice. And he voiced 2 video game characters last year.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as he started speaking, you knew exactly who it was. He was also the villain in, I want to say, what was that movie called? Hurricane Heist.
Oh, see, I have yet to see that. I need to see this.
I think he's in that. But yeah, he was in Final Fantasy 16 last year. And I think he was in something else last year, video game wise. But I forget what it was. But I'm wondering if his voice will be the voice, because he has a very distinct accent, and I'm wondering if he's going to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Very gravelly voice, so if you're going to hear him speak in anything, you'll instantly be like, okay, I'm never going to not recognize that's his voice now.
Gotcha. Has he been in anything else that you can think of off the top of your head?
I know he's been in Game of Thrones, but I've not seen that.
Okay. Now I gotta look this up.
So I can't tell you who he is in Game of Thrones.
All right. It's Ralph Ineson, right?
That sounds right.
There it is, English actor. Let's see. Who was he on Game of Thrones? He has a very familiar face.
Mm-hmm.
So, go to this one. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, given the vibe of... he was in Harry Potter as well, and The Witch.
Oh, yeah, The Witch. He was the dad in The Witch.
He's the dad in The Witch. Oh, yeah, he has a very distinct voice. From that, let's see. Who was he on Game of Thrones?
I couldn't even try and do an impression of him. He's got such a...
Yeah.
Thing. The other video game was Diablo 4. I was checking because it was annoying me.
Let's see. I am having a hard time finding this. He was on the British Office, so that's cool.
Yeah, just Google him and put Game of Thrones after it. I'm sure he'll come up with a photo.
Yeah, I know, but I'm already on this one page. So, he was in Ready Player One. He's been in a ton of things. So he's like a. Would it be fair to call him a character actor?
I guess. I feel like he's kind of starting to get out of that, but yeah, I mean, I think it's probably fair.
All right, so I watched every episode of Game of Thrones. I do not remember who Dagmar Cleftjaw was. And that's no offense to his acting. He was only in 5 episodes of the show. So...
I mean, that's half a season of that show, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he was one of the Ironborn. Okay. Gotcha. Anyways, well, that's cool. Galactus. Hopefully he's got the big Kirby head, We'll see how that comes out. And like you said, his voice is very, very distinct, so that should be good.
Yep. I just thought I'd mention that, but hey, we can get on to the comics for the week then.
I have I went to Newsroom to look. There was one comic book story that was published yesterday.
Really? Go on.
Yeah. So there's going to be a new Gotham City Sirens book. It's going to be weekly, for the month of August. And it's going to be done by...
I did not see this.
Yeah, it is going to... Where
oh my god, okay, but I'll just take over, because you're taking it. Right, it's a 4-issue weekly series, right? So it's all a limited series. It's, Leah Williams.
There we go.
Matthew Lawley, Daniel Hilliard, and Brant and Stein. Only
one of those names I recognize.
Yeah. Well, here's the other detail, though, is it's taking over all the monthly books of all these characters. So the regular Catwoman book's taking a month off, the regular Harley Quinn's taking a month off, and the regular Poison Ivy's taking a month off. And so I presume that this is a lot of the other creators working on those books, even though I don't recognize the names right now. Yep. So, yes. So they're joining forces to take care of a highly illegal energy drink. Okay, I wasn't expecting...
A highly illegal energy drink sponsored hunting operation.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Which threatens both the wildlife and residents of the city.
I just read highly illegal energy drink and thought, what the hell is that plot going to be?
Well, there's a Dodson's cover of Harley and Ivy on a buffalo with Selena petting it. So I know what my lock screen will be.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I like when you said Gotham City Sirens. When I saw it's just...
yeah.
I'm good. I don't even try this.
Yeah.
Not for me, but that's okay.
So it looks like it's all Leah Williams. So it says the first and third issues will be drawn by Lawley, with Hilliard taking over the art duties for 2. The final issue will be drawn by Hilliard and Brattenstein. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I like Leah Williams enough. I'll be checking this out.
Yeah, so that's August this is happening then?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, there you go. Yeah, I missed that when I looked out, because I looked before we came on.
Yeah.
God damn it, Matt. Could you mute the mic or something when you go to clear your nose?
My bad. It's been bad since I've been back.
Oh dear. When Tim does that, I go in and edit it out of the podcast. I can't do that with you though.
Why not?
Because you don't send me your own audio.
Oh, well then, I'll get better on the mute button.
I need to have separate audio tracks to do that. All right, let's get to the comics then for the week, shall we? Batman 147, Legacy number 912, Chip Zdarsky writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. Okay, what the hell happened in this one? I read this first. Amanda Waller. It was sort of setting up some of the stuff from Absolute Power that we already saw from the Free Comic Book Day issue. I remember that.
Yeah, we have Vandal Savage taking over as commissioner of Gotham City. You have Damon being enthralled by the failsafe Zur-En-Arrh Batman.
Well, until he's very quickly not.
Yeah. But at the beginning, it seems like Damian's liking this version of Dad. You know, because at the beginning, Zur-En-Arrh / failsafe is like, yeah, there's so much crime. And Damian's like, so we fight it as Batman and Robin, father and son. We don't need anyone else. And they're like, all right, I don't really, we've been through a lot of characterization of Damian at this point, right? And I just, the little sicko, bloodthirsty guy, I kind of moved on from.
I mean,
so
I'm not necessarily that mad at that part of it, just because, like, I'm not sure if it's bloodthirsty, more so he's just more authoritarian, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, the problem is the next scene with them later in the issue, which is quite a bit later now that I'm actually going through it, is that he's, he basically says, hey, Damian, look at all these amazing robots I've got, and I've downloaded Batman consciousnesses into them from other universes, so they're all controlled by a Batman. And Damian's like, but wait, that sounds like you've left a bunch of Batmen as vegetables because you've taken their consciousness, unless, and it just clicks instantly, goes, Zur-En-Arrhs, and that means you're a Zur-En-Arrh, and then he like goes into fighting mode. This really bugged me, because there was like no build up to it. Like, I appreciate that Damian was able to figure out. I do like that idea, but I wish it was more of a slow, like, build of him sort of learning. I mean, forgetting the fact here that I just hate the idea that Zur-En-Arrh's a separate entity that's in a robot that's the villain of the story. I don't like any of that, right? But we're in this situation. So the idea that Damian's kind of on board with this more strict, like, go after crime Batman, but over time starts to notice little things and maybe comes to realize it's Zur-En-Arrh. But the fact that he just has this realization in 3 panels and that's it, it's fight time, just really bothered me. Like, he's not even conflicted. As soon as he knows, so as soon as he figures it out, he's just like, all right, I need to kill you now, robot, because you're Zur-En-Arrh. So yeah, that's rough to me.
Yeah, and then he shoves him in a machine, and out comes a different Robin. So what's this about?
Oh, and Zur-En-Arrh shoves Robin into a machine.
Yeah. Shoves him into like one of these tubes, right? And Zur-En-Arrh goes, I can't trust or control a Robin unless I make him like myself, which would mean, which I understand on the page, just what they're doing.
To clarify this here, he doesn't really throw Robin into anything special. He just throws him into something to trap him. He's just containing him, right? Yeah. This Robin that he pops out, this is, in a cooking show style thing here, this is one he made earlier that he had ready to go. This is not him putting him into a photocopier and pressing a button and out comes another Robin.
Well, I had thought he'd thrown him into this thing and out came a Zur-En-Arrh version of Damian, which that's an even bigger leap than a photocopy type cloning thing. No.
I think this is something he already had prepared in the eventuality of Damian. So I think Damian's just been trapped in a tube or something. And that's,
so is this a Damian from one of the Zur-En-Arrh guys?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that, Matt.
Yeah. That's what I want to know, where he had this kid, because this kid is there now.
I mean, is there a consciousness in there, or is it just a robot? I don't know.
Right. Well, it's a robot. It looks nothing like the other Amazos or Zur-En-Arrh himself. So
it's I don't know, Batman Who Laughs, Damian.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. No.
Oh dear. Anyway, so yeah.
I will say, to go on the positive side, we see Bruce go through here. And he ends up going to like a cabin off in the woods, where he remembers teaching Tim how to shoot an arrow, right? Was that Tim?
Yeah, that's okay. So he basically goes to this cabin. Well, he goes to the with the Happy Harbor, like JLA, like headquarters first, the old headquarters, to get some stuff, and he reminisces about a time when he was like working on something on his own, and Barry, that's Barry Allen specifically, came up to him and said, "Hey, I can help you with this. I'm a chemist. I can help you with this fancy, smoke grenade you're making." And he's like, "Hey, this gas will like sort of stick around and stay cloudy for longer without causing any damage." And it's like, "Hey, you don't have to do this alone." And then, the one good bit of comic sort of like storytelling here to me, just in terms of its construction, is that it goes from this bright panel of Barry with his hand on his shoulder to Bruce just sitting in the dark on his own in this same location. And it's kind of, it's really showing this idea that he's all alone right now. He has no friends to call on. But yeah, he goes to this cabin and he reminisces about teaching Tim how to shoot an arrow. And the main thing that comes up here is that with Dick, like Dick was kind of like easy to train because Dick was already kind of special. He was already this high-flying acrobat type character.
Yeah. He's a circus kid.
Yeah, much like had been training his whole life. Tim was more of a struggle because Tim, while he had the passion to do all these things, he wasn't just taking to all the physical stuff as naturally, but it took more work. And he says that he's, if anything, it's made him more impressed by Tim over the years because Tim was able to put in the work and get there, but it was more of a struggle for him early on. So that sets up for Tim showing up later. Tim shows up and like says, "Hey, I figured you'd come here. I brought you some food, and I'm here to help you." And they sort of say Batman and Robin at each other as they hug and go into the cabin. So I mean, Bruce, his side of this is mostly fine. I have no real complaints. Like, I don't like why he's out of the city and why he's having to go off and do this, but there's nothing wrong with him reminiscing about his allies.
Yeah, I just like that because, like you said, because I rushed through the Happy Harbor part, was Bruce is always better when he's surrounding himself with people, right? Like, whether it was Alfred in the Bat Family or the Justice League, it's good when he has someone to rely on. And because of this whole Zdarsky thing, he's, isolated himself too much. So the idea that the kid that had to work the hardest to become like Bruce is the one that finds him, I thought that was really well handled.
Yeah, I think that's all solid stuff because it's all character stuff that I can get on board with. I don't particularly like the bat outfit that Batman puts on at the end. And says, "Let's go and take down
the monster down."
Yeah, I guess go take down Zur-En-Arrh. Mainly just because I feel like, as much as I enjoyed some of him reminiscing about his allies and like what they mean to him, I do think there wasn't really much of a build up to him making this call to action at the end. It didn't feel like we were building up to a point of like, okay, it's time to go back. This side story with Bruce like finding himself and like prepping to come back, this felt like it was the start of like an arc. It felt like it was the start of like a 3-parter of him building himself up and coming up with a plan or whatever. Instead, after Tim's made him some dinner, he's put on his bat outfit and he's like, okay, it's time to go and take down the bad guy. And I'm like, okay, I didn't feel like we built up to that. It feels like you've just whipped that out at the end, out of nowhere.
I felt like the whole point of the scene with him and Tim was he has to do this as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman. And then you get to the end of the story of this issue, and he's just putting on a different version of the suit now. And I was like, Bruce, you're never learning,
I mean, I never got that he has to do this as Bruce Wayne thing. I think that's just on you. I don't think I ever got that from that part of the story. So there's stilted elements to it. There's bits there that I'm not fond of. I mean, obviously the stuff that I really don't like is just what's going on with Failsafe, and now we have this evil-looking Robin kid. Yeah.
He's got I don't know what type of weapon that's called, but it's essentially a staff with a knife on the top.
Actually, now that I'm looking at these Robin pages again, right, and I'm looking at what happens when he gets thrown into a tube. I think he comes out of the same tube. I think he actually changes Damien into something else.
That's what I'm confused about. Like, again, is this a Zur-En-Arrh thing? Is this a,
I didn't notice the gas in the tube the first time I read it.
So, yeah. I don't know.
I like this even less because I'm like, okay, what did you just do? You just gassed him to turn him into evil Damien? Like, what? Yeah. But how did that change his outfit though? That's why I thought he came out of a different tube. Because the outfit's completely changed. He's got this big R now on his chest.
Yeah. Which I'm not gonna hate. I kind of like that costume, but it is very reminiscent of Tim's too. A lot of lacing on the gloves and the boots and
Which is
whatnot.
fine.
Yeah.
I just okay. Well, okay. I retract some of my statements from earlier on that, but like, not because I like any of this better. It's just a different type of suck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. Failsafe does speak to Waller, and they're not in the best of terms yet, but it does seem like Waller's trying to convince Failsafe that I mean, she doesn't know she doesn't know it's not Batman. She thinks it's a version of Batman, but she's like, hey, I'm a better ally than those other superheroes that are going to try and stop you eventually. So it feels like it's planting the seeds for what's coming up in the event, which is fine. I just, because even the fact that Clock King's with her, obviously he was with her in the event tease from the Free Comic Book Day specials. So they're setting some of that stuff up. That's all fine and well. Failsafe chews out the Warden character, from the night who were like, wait, how did Bruce get out of here? This is on you. And he's like, I don't underestimate him. You're underestimating him just like all of these villains have done all these years. And Failsafe gets a little bit pissy about that. Or Zur-En-Arrh gets pissy. I don't know what I should be calling him. Like, am I calling him Failsafe? Am I calling him Zur-En-Arrh? He's kind of both.
Yeah. Because one doesn't exist without the other, right? Because you have to have Zur-En-Arrh to create Failsafe. But then you gotta have the Failsafe to put the Zur-En-Arrh into. So just Failsafe Zur-En-Arrh, I guess, it's a mouthful, but yeah.
Zur-En-Safe.
Fail-En-Arrh. I mean, that's how I feel about this arc. So
that's how I feel about this run.
Yeah, I was being more nice.
Like,
so,
like
it looks good.
I mean, the art's mostly fine. I didn't hate the first arc, admittedly, but as it's went on, I've just it's descended into just status quo after status quo that I'm just not enjoying. I think just the entire concept, because there's a point in this issue when Bruce is driving and he's thinking to himself, Zur-En-Arrh was in there the whole time, and that means because at one point he says to Tim as well, oh, now that Zur-En-Arrh's gone, I remember a lot of things more clearly. And I'm like, so you're trying to get me to buy that for years of Batman stories, there's been almost a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on with Batman. Zur-En-Arrh as a concept, I like it as as a more of a
break in case of emergency.
No, not even that. No, I like it more as just more of a metaphor than a literal thing, right? And this idea that it's been a genuine separate personality that has actually managed to free itself from Batman and be its own thing and is now a villain, I hate all of that, because all of that is not Batman's story. All of this is fantasy bullshit. It's just complete nonsense, and it's not what I like about... I like Batman sometimes fighting, supernatural beings or science fiction concepts. But once you start sci-fiing the crap out of him himself, you're taking away from what makes Batman Batman. Giving him a robot hand, god damn it. I don't want Batman to just be doing this shit where I feel like Batman himself, he's technically still the human one, but I don't know, it's just but he's had a split personality that's got a robot body of its own now. He's got a robot hand. I feel like we're at a point where at this point he's no less science fiction as a character than half the other members of the Justice League, and I just think that robs him of something when it's
that makes him special, because he's the guy with no powers chilling with the dude that does have powers, right? So you got to keep him grounded a little bit, and there's zero grounding here, because again, it doesn't make any sense about Zur-En-Arrh being a separate consciousness. So except for the fact that it's Zdarsky just telling us that's what it is. Yeah, and that's what I meant by breaking case of emergency. Is in Morrison's run, I liked that they had to break Bruce down to the point to where it was the one thing that's left that keeps Batman moving is the Zur-En-Arrh persona, and that's not what this is at all. This is his. I don't know if it's his ego or id or any of that type of psychological stuff, but it's almost his pure desire for justice given a form. I don't know if I like that.
when it was just sort of representing a dark part of his brain, like a part without the inhibitions, like that was fine with that used in the right way. There's nothing wrong with that concept. But this is just an example of them taking something and making it so literal and such a tangible thing that it just feels really hokey. And like the more this run has went on, the more I've disliked everything about it. Even when there are moments or little ideas with the characters that are fine on their own. Because, you know, I look at this, you know, that multiverse arc that led up to issue 900, the Batman and Catwoman like war crossover, and then we've had all this stuff with Zura and R and Joker Year One. Like, it's been like a year, 2 years even at this point, of just stuff I do not like.
It has been a gauntlet.
So, and yet we keep churning over into more issues. We'll see where the train wreck takes us next time. But yeah, can't say I'm particularly excited for the next issue. And I did not read the backup because I had no interest in wanting to.
Gotcha. So I read it. And it's a Riddler story, and it starts with Riddler and Two-Face in the warden's jail where he's keeping everybody locked up, and the warden calls for Enigma, and he has him up on the roof, and the warden is wrapping his hands with like boxing wraps, and he sends out a bunch of the more street level Bat villains. So like I'm seeing, it looks like Tattooed Man, but he's just a dude wearing a red like beanie covered in tattoos. Zaz is definitely there because he gets some face time with the warden. But it's essentially the warden is trying to break down Enigma and is like, hey, so with your type of brilliance, you should be a billionaire by now. Why aren't you? And Enigma starts blaming Batman. And it's all because Batman's always getting in his way. And Batman's up in his, you know, Batman's always causing a cog in things that if Batman wasn't here, I would be. And he calls the group that he's fighting, all these street level guys, like idiots. And the guy that looks like the Tattooed Man takes exception to that, and he starts fighting Enigma. And, you know, Enigma's not a fighter. So he goes down, and the warden tells him, like, look, the way that you think Batman's holding you back, these guys think that you, the Riddler, who's not like top tier villain, but more than them, is holding them back. They're hungrier than you. You've lost your hunger, right? So that ends up making Riddler essentially flip it around on this guy. And before he can kill the guy with all the tattoos, he stops himself and tells the warden that he's wrong, you know, he can smell the type of person that the warden is, because Enigma is that type of person as well. And he's like, that robot isn't the real Batman. You know that. And that you're shamed by the way that you've fallen in line. And so you're fixated on him like I'm fixated on Batman. And the warden disagrees, tells him that he's wrong, that he says he enjoys the challenge. So thinks that, that's why he brought him onto the roof. It wasn't just to fight these street level guys. And that he says that, I'm here to help Batman. I'm not, he's not in my way. I'm here to get my way through conventional or unconventional means. And there's like it looks like a machine of some kind with a lot of tubes and stuff coming out of it. And asks Enigma if, care to change your mind about all of this. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're doing like a mind control, but like a brainwashing type thing. And that's what this guy's going to do. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it a lot more than some of the other backups that we've gotten through Batman. Madoncha's art's pretty solid. Like the fight scenes. I mean, it's crazy that this guy who trained Batman's mind is so jacked, right? He looks like The Rock on a lot of these. So it's crazy that there's this warden guy that's, holed up there that we think is just a brain guy that is so muscly and beating the piss out of Zaz and everybody else. But other than that, the art tells the story pretty well. The expressions, especially like when Enigma has the one guy on the ground and he's about ready to choke him out, just the look of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just pure rage on his face is pretty compelling. So I preferred it to what we got in the main book. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I just like I was done.
Yeah, no, honestly, there. If I didn't turn the page and it wasn't a Riddler story, I would have probably done the same. But I was curious to see what we had here.
Yeah. All right. What you giving Batman?
All right. So I will give the main book a 6, and I will give the backup a 7.5. So I'll give this as a whole a 6.5.
I was going to say we don't those separate them. That's you.
Yeah, I'm going to though because I did like it that much more.
5.5 for me.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Some of the Bruce stuff was fine and delving into his backstory, so I guess just over the line with that. All right, Birds of Prey, issue 9, Legacy number 207. Kelly Thompson writing with Jonathan Case and Gavin Guidry on the art. So yeah, this is kind of the start of a new arc, although it just follows on from the cliffhanger of the last one where they all went through the portal together. Starts off with some light humor, with what sounds like Barda telling someone that their hand is touching something that shouldn't be touching, and that they're to move it. And then when someone does try to move their hand, she says, "Not like that, move it again and I'll snap it off." So, all very hilarious. But the setup, once they get up and they realize that they're in obviously some other world, but also they've all been like dressed in clothes that are not their regular clothes, but they're kind of based, like they're kind of like weird fantasy noir versions of some of their outfits.
It definitely it reminded me of like the stuff that I've seen from Gotham and Gaslight. You know, like you said, that's like this fantasy noir kind of style. And all of their like Vixen can't tap into the red. Like she can feel it, but she can't tap into it. And like whose gear was it? Cass's has all been replaced by what looks like toys. So definitely weird things going on.
The toy thing's separate. That comes up. Like, everyone's gadgets are toys later. It's not like, but like they're, and also the art here, like it's very, very muted. Like there's very little color. It's almost black and white, not quite, but almost. Where there's only just a slight tint to hair, a slight tint to skin tones, and there's a lot of deep black inks in the costumes and stuff. And it really sells this idea we're in a different world. So the art change from the last issue does work in that sense. But Babs isn't there, right? So the 5 of them are standing there. You got Vixen, you got Cash, you got Sin, Dinah, and Barda. And they can't find Babs, so they start yelling for her. And they eventually do find her. But before we get to that, we actually get to where Meridian is. Meridian didn't go through the portal. She kind of effectively bounced off of it, like it rejected her. So she wakes up and goes to Star City to try and get help from, and I'm forgetting the character's name.
So it's Grifter.
And, no, Grifter. Zealot. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So until I saw Zealot standing there halfway down the page, I thought she was going to get Ollie because Star City, right? And this guy kind of looks like Ollie.
He's got the blonde hair.
He's got the blonde, and I was like, oh, okay, they're playing with the shaggy beard, Ollie, not the goatee. And then I saw that, I was like, oh, that's Grifter. That's Cash. I was like, oh, okay. Now it's tying it back together. Now everything makes sense.
Yeah. So she goes to Zealot for help, who isn't particularly thrilled. In fact, there's a whole bit here where she threatens her about, you know, there's something unnerving about you being so optimistic and you're from the future. And Meridian's like, doesn't that give you hope that I'm optimistic and I'm from the future? And there's just a close-up panel of Zealot saying, no, with the evil eyes. So, yeah. But yeah, they go back to where the portal is and try and like deal with, you know, they're basically talking about it. The Mega Rod's still sitting there, what Zealot points out. That's very strange. Why wouldn't they take that with them? But that's kind of what we get from them. It just sets up that they're kind of inspecting stuff. We get an interesting little thing. I don't know if we saw this before. Well, obviously, we've heard Megara talk through Sin, but we get this thing here where they're talking about Meridian and Megara. And Megara basically like starts talking from the back of Sin's head, like using her hair to form a face. And it's kind of creepy. And then Sin freaks out and says, "I told you not to do that." And then the hair kind of comes around and looks at her, and then sticks out a tongue to be like, "Bleh," like, "Don't tell me off," kind of attitude. So this is just another example of like the sense of humor and like the fun character back and forth that this book's had still being there, even when we're in this weird situation.
It's the idea that Megara was the kind of the big bad of the first arc, but now it's kind of like a petulant teammate, right? I just like that whole dynamic because Sin's like, we've talked about this, and Megara's like, yeah, but Barda's been talking about me, right? And so it was just, yeah, the back and forth between them was very funny, and then it ends with Megara sticking out her tongue. But yeah, very fun stuff.
Yeah, we're really playing with this idea as a separate entity in her now. Because they were having fun with that last time with the drinks at the party and all that. Yep. And they're doing more of it here, so that's really cool. So they find Babs in a well and like, hey, get me up. And notably though, Babs is the only one whose costume isn't in black. It's kind of just... It's not exactly what her current outfit, but it's close enough to it. It's still muted, but it's not in black, so she kind of sticks out as being different. Now, upon first reading here, I was like, well, maybe that's because she's the target. Whatever forces pulled them in here, they want her, and that's why she looks different to them. But yeah, her belt's full of gadgets and toys instead of what's meant to be there. In fact, when Cass checks her belt and there's a teddy bear, she says it's surprisingly violating, so she's very upset that someone swapped out her tools. But they sort of lower down a vine or something and get Babs out the well. Which is good fun. And then some bat monsters show up, so we get a fun action scene. We get what's the special? What's the Wolverine?
Fastball special?
Fastball special.
Yeah.
Basically, someone's like, oh, we've got nothing left to throw, and Barda just picks up Cass and throws it like a cannon. Really entertaining, really fun, especially since their friendship's been kind of like building over the course of the book, so I had a really good time with that little moment. But yeah, good stuff. So the hints of what's actually going on start to like they're kind of there before the reveal, and what I loved is in a few pages time, when Cass just yells out, "That's not Barbara," and then the fight breaks out. If you go back and look at the few pages before when they're all talking about what's going on and the bat monsters and where to go, like, you know, what is this place? Because they don't know. They're like, hey, is it some sort of weird demented version of Danny the Street or something? Like they're theorizing. If you pay attention to those panels, you'll notice that in every panel we can see both Babs and Cass. Cass is looking right at Babs with like, you know, like a look in her face. It's like she's like watching her closely, like she's really like taking in like who she is and what she's saying. And the panel especially. Where Babs says, "Aren't we already in a trap?" And Dinah says, "Good point." Like Babs has got this sort of like a little smirk in her face, but Cass is behind her looking very intently, like she's really deducing something.
You can tell, even though there's no fine lines, you can tell her brow is furrowed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like that because it's like that moment comes, and I really like that immediately Dinah just like cries out because she's the only one. Vixen's not got her powers; she can't feel the red, so she can't connect to it, and all that stuff. So they don't really know if Dinah's got her powers, but they're like, "Hey, I won't try until the moment calls for it because I don't want to like waste it in a moment if it like you know if it's I don't want to like use up all my juice if nothing's there." But as soon as Cass says that's not Babs, Dinah screams right into her. And Babs just kind of, whoever this, you know, entity pretended to be Babs is, just sort of stands up and smiles and says, "I guess you were pretty sure." And she's like, "Cass was sure, so am I." I really like that. It really sort of built this idea that there's a bond forming between Cass and Dinah, which is, you know, kind of a new relationship, actually. I don't know if they've had much interaction before.
And it's the trust that's there, you know?
Yeah. So, but like I said, when that moment hit, I went back and looked through the previous few pages, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Cass says eyeing her up that entire time. I can't deny it. Like the art was telling the story. There's nothing in the dialogue, but the art was telling that story that Cass was keeping an eye on her. So we don't know where Babs is, right? Babs is missing right now. So that's the whole thing. And this evil Babs starts like getting all creepy looking with a big mouth and glowing red eyes and whatever. Turns into a giant ass bat, which little touch here, the fact that this is a giant bat monster but still has red hair, still quite funny.
Yes, very funny. And we're in the utility belt too, you know.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. It almost looks like a gremlin because of the red hair.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like the Mohawk
It does.
gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of that vibe.
Just with bat, features because of the big arms and feet and whatever. But yeah, very creepy. And this is where I went, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, they theorize a little bit that like Barbara, like this world that they're in was somehow created either by Barbara or like someone used Barbara's mind to create it. Because at one point there's like a clock tower that they're going towards, and I was thinking like, why is there a clock tower here? And I'm wondering if like there's something here about, oh, this is like kind of a nightmare world, like from Bab's like mind. Whether or not she's done this unintentionally or someone else has used her mind to create it, I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of, we have a bit of a fight with a big bat monster towards the end. Get a big full page of Canary screaming upwards, which looks really cool.
So good.
Well, I think it's because the colors are so muted throughout the whole book, except when she uses her cry, and we get like these strong pinks and purples. So that page really stands out compared to everything else. But yeah, the portal opens from the other side because Meridian and that are doing that, and they all basically have to run for it and jump out, and that's the end of the issue. Just with Dinah, as narration says, like, if you're here, Babs, I hope we're not leaving you here, but if we are, I promise I'll get back. I'll promise we'll find you. So it ends in a bit of a kind of a downbeat note, but I like this issue quite a bit. I think it's impressive that it keeps changing visual style, but it keeps sort of finding ways to make it work. Like, I almost think that this art team shouldn't be on the next issue. I feel like this art team should only be on when they're in this world, because it feels so specific to this world now to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also like how ominous it is, where before Dinah goes through the portal, this Babs creature is staring her down, and Dinah's just defiant. I think that's a great image. But yeah, I agree. The art team definitely, if they're going to do it, bring this team back to do whatever the resolution is.
I say the team, whatever, because obviously I mentioned two artists. Whatever one did this world, because the pages with Meridian and Zealot were a different art style, right? That's kind of like your real normal world, and that looks way more in style with what the first arc of the book looked like, which makes a lot of sense. Like I think that works. This is a case where the two different artists make a lot of sense in the context of the book. Especially since they go out of their way to make this other world feel like it's lacking detail and color to give it a sense of otherworldliness, It really does feel like they're in a different place.
So I'm pretty sure that art is Jonathan Case, who did the Batman 66 book.
Okay.
Which I can definitely see, because it's almost got some of that classic vibe, you know?
I assume this just has a more distinct coloring scheme, I assume.
Yes, this has a different coloring scheme. So, but yeah, no, I agree there. That style really matched. And it definitely has my hook on what the hell's going on with Babs. Like, I have zero ideas on what to build off of, and that's good.
We know something's after her. Maybe it's got its hands on her now, and the question is, okay, what's it going to do? How do we get her back? How do we save her? But right from the second of that issue that revealed that the next arc was going to be about saving Babs, and that like some sort of time travel entity was trying to kill her, we immediately said, okay, this feels great because we care about Babs, so the stakes feel high. And this, so Dinah making this declaration at the end of "I am going to save you no matter what," feels like something the audience can get behind. Plus, there was just fun stuff. Like, I think the bat creatures, because they're almost just solid black by and large, looked really cool, and felt like they were fighting shadow monsters almost. The Babs bat creature looked delightfully fun and like creepy, but kind of quirky as well. Like I say, kind of like a Gremlins thing almost with the red hair on top. I mean, I've continued to really like this book, and this was a delightful read.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, what are you rating Birds of Prey?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with that. I think I'd say an 8.5 as well. I have very little to complain about or anything. It's just really good, and I'm excited for the next issue. So cool. Shazam, issue 11, Josie Campbell writing with Emanuela Lupacchino on the art. So, we had the cliffhanger last time, was that the captain, Shazam, is burning letters that are being sent to Billy. But Billy doesn't know about this. So that's what we sort of came into this issue with it in our minds. This issue revolves largely around the fact that a woman from Child Protection Services, or whatever it's called, is
CPS.
there you go. Yeah. Is there to interview all the kids to see if the adoption can go through, right? So this is them approving of the adoption. And one of my favorite details about all this, because early on in the issue, Mary's like got a meeting with all the siblings and is like, hey, this is what we're doing today. This is what all your roles are. Freddie, don't be a smart ass. Eugene, you have to show that how smart you are to show how much you thrive in this environment, so on and so on. And I love that Darla's missing and she's away doing her own thing, and she's like,
she's scheming.
Well, my favorite part is that all the other like kids, when they're getting labeled in this scene, it says whatever their duty is. So for Eugene, it's make everyone look good duty, right? That's what it says under him. When it comes to Darla, and she's on her own with Hoppy, who, by the way, she can't understand Hoppy. Only the captain and Mary can understand him. But she yells out as she breaks into Billy's room to investigate, because she saw the whole thing with the burning letters. She yells out, Darla and Hoppy investigation duty. And that made me laugh because, like, the page with Mary saying all this stuff, like, she wasn't actually saying those phrases. That was just like the labels on the page. So I love the idea that this isn't even the first time this stuff has come up. But either way, it was a nice little callback to that page, and it made me laugh in the way that Shazam often does. I really like that.
Yep.
So yeah, but that's the main bulk of the issue. Is this woman's there, and it's them trying to hide all the weird supernatural things around the house, like Tawny being behind the door and them trying to pretend they've got a tiger mannequin in the house.
That's a tiger mannequin. It doesn't move. And God, that's so funny.
Yeah, that's really good. Them trying to hide the fact that the van crashed into the house, trying to hide the door that goes to the Rock of Eternity, like all these things. But she really wants to speak to Billy, and that's the big crux of this issue, the emotional gut punch, because the issue actually opens with a flashback to when Billy's mum like shows up at school to pick him up angry, and it turns out she's angry because he had the teacher call home to say, hey, where are you, he needs picked up, and she's livid with him for him asking for help, because this will make her look bad and they might take him away. So she's like, oh, my boyfriend will be upset now because he's got a lot going on. So it really sells this horrible home life that he had before he went into the foster system.
Yeah, it's definitely not on that. And there's the theme that I like that goes on with Billy throughout this is at the beginning, as we're getting his narration, he says when he was younger, he thought normal is what he saw on TV. Kids eating Brussels sprouts and sitcoms, families going on vacation and kid shows. And then what Josie Campbell does is gives us a sitcom-like premise of them trying to hide things from the CPS lady in a very sitcom-y fashion, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And because that is what's normal to the Shazam family. And so, Billy has made this because of his family. He has made it his own normal. And it's kind of...
By the end of the issue, this mum's going to show up threatening to take him out of the sitcom and back to the crap life that he had before.
Yep.
Because that's the thing, like, the lady's interviewing them all, and they fight off these, fun enough, giant bat creatures. We have more giant bats in this book.
Reading those back to back was certainly fun.
That was a weird double up this week. But, they're shutting curtains to avoid the fight, as and Billy's having to run out and be Captain Marvel and run back in and be Billy again. It's very much a hijinks issue. Mary's trying to take care of it. Actually, one of my details here that I really loved was that Mary's told to stay outside with the parents so she can have like interviews with the kids, and she's like, wait, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're 18, you're not my concern, and if you want to live with these two people, you can. You're 18. It's your choice.
You're out of the system, you're not my problem.
I need to talk to the underage people. And I thought that was a really neat thing to show. Oh, that's a really cool little detail that Mary now, like, she doesn't have to be adopted, she just gets to live with them. Like, that's fine. So I like that detail. But yeah, there's this little thing towards the end between Darla finding the other burned letters that are under the bed, selling this idea that someone's been trying to get in touch for a while, and eventually this lady from the company's like, hey, honestly, there's no reason to not approve the adoption, but there is one parent who's saying no. There's a natural parent who's blocking this adoption, and like, what the hell are you talking about? And the cliffhanger is Billy's mum at the door saying, "Did you get my letters?" So obviously we have this cliffhanger here of how this might interfere with the life. If it's really the mum, like let's not count out the fact that this could be someone taking the form of Billy's mum.
Yeah, because the bat creatures are attacking the house because through the house it's leaking magic from the Rock of Eternity.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get into that magic so then they can restore the whole bat creatures through Earth and whatever. So yeah, who knows? It could be some other magic shenanigans.
That's option one, right? But whether or not it turns out that it's really her or not, and that's obviously good drama because it's interfering with this better life that he's now found, and raises the question of like, well, what's better, the life with the natural parent that can stake a claim, even though it was an unhappy life, versus like this found family that's better for him. But the more interesting thing from a character perspective is this idea of, okay, the captain chose to hide this from him and has been hiding it from him for some time, at least months, based on the number of letters that we see in that box that have been destroyed. And this idea that the captain's like almost like stepping out of his way to protect Billy and like stop him from knowing about it is very interesting. This idea that he's maybe going over a line and being too protective to the point where, hey, you're making this choice for him now. He should be able to make this for himself. And then you get to argue, well, is the captain still part of Billy, and therefore is this part of his subconscious that doesn't want him to know? You know, like, there's some interesting questions from a character perspective to think about.
Yeah, because when he's arguing with himself in the mirror, and on the other side of the mirror is the captain says, I used my wisdom of Solomon to know that what I was doing was right for you. You know, so like, is it just Billy's, you know, like you said, subconscious protecting him? You know, or is this something else? Is the captain its own identity, but that identity still wants to protect Billy?
Yeah, these are interesting questions, and I think they all work because ultimately, even if it is just like part of himself that wants to sort of block it out, like given what we see at the start about how bad his child life was with her and how much she didn't care about him, like, you know, this is the sort of thing you hear about people blocking out, like not wanting to think about traumatic childhoods and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting take, and I enjoyed it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it did occur to me that there was a very similar cliffhanger in John's run with the dad showing up, and then you remember because he looked like Captain Marvel, he looked like adult Billy, and that was the only thing that dampened this a little bit for me, is that I remember a very similar cliffhanger happening in the last few years. That said, though, I do think this is a better run than that run, and I think there's more interesting things going on with the captain hiding it from Billy. It adds that extra layer to it that gives it a bit more pep, a bit more, you know, intrigue. So, you know, that's not, you know, honestly, this is exactly the sort of wacky hijinks I like from a Shazam book. It's all the family working together for a good cause, which is wanting to get the adoption approved, but there's all these other things going on, so they're having to like duck and dive and deal with it. Also, Hoppy's continual fear of Tawny is also amusing. I enjoyed that as well.
Because the fact that we can also understand Hoppy, and so when Darla's like, yeah, you come with me, we'll get this done, and Hoppy's telling her, as long as you don't leave me with the big tiger, we're good.
As long as you keep that cat away from me, we're A-okay. We can do whatever you want.
Yep. Very funny.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I'm just glad that... What?
I was gonna say there's something really sweet about Darla really bonding with Hoppy, despite the fact that she can't understand him. It is very like it's almost like, you know, it's the idea of a little kid bonding with a pet, but the pet's actually intelligent. The kid just can't like understand them. There's something really sweet about that.
There's almost like a nonverbal communication with them.
Yeah,
Darla knows, you know, Darla knows, but can't exactly understand. She's just going off of vibes, which kind of checks for her because she's the sweetest character ever. So, of course, Hoppy would feel comfortable with her. Yeah, so I'm interested to develop that a little bit further as well if we go. Lupacchino's art is very nice, very clean, as it usually is. I love her Mary Marvel, but her regular Mary looks off to me, and I can't explain why. It just maybe it feels like the proportions are off.
Really? Okay, that wasn't.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just again, I don't know. I can't say I have any problem with her. I think her Mary's one of the better looking characters she has. And I think part of that is just because it's easier because she's more of an adult now. It's easier to draw an adult or a teenager than it is to draw a kid. Preteen. You know? And that might be what it is too. Is I'm still, you know, not used to that whole Mary's a, you know, upper teen right? So,
Yeah.
but her Mary Marvel looks fine, which is weird because they look almost the same. It's just those pages with Billy and the rest of the kids. I don't know, maybe because the proportions, because they're making her look so much bigger because she's older. You know, I don't know. Maybe it was a perspective thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with that. I think what's interesting to me is that I feel like Darla's looking a little bit taller than normal, but I don't necessarily think that's a mistake. I think that might just be a conscious choice of saying, hey, she's not 7 anymore, she's more like 8 or 9. Like, you know, like if Mary's hitting 18, then technically all the other kids have to be going up an age or 2 as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
And kids, you know, grow fast when they're younger. So
because Billy's meant to be like what, 13-ish?
So yeah, 13, 14, something in that range.
God.
Yeah. So like I buy that Darla's close to those double digits now, given that she feels a bit taller, a bit older looking.
For sure.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, so I enjoyed that. I also just enjoyed the comedy of like well, you've got a bunny in here in the kitchen. That's unsanitary. And you just like the woman just clicks her pen. It's just, you know, it's just visual comedy or audio comedy, I guess, in this case, because it's a sound effect. But
it's like, don't tell her that the tiger's the one that makes the food.
Well, my favorite part of it is that she clicks the pen, and then the next panel is like most of the kids like gasping in shock, as if they're gasping to the pen click, which is funny. But then you get the reverse shot, and it's because there's a bat monster at the window. Yeah. So there was a really good like knock on like 3 panels of like the click's funny, their reaction to the click's funny. Oh no, they're actually reacting to a monster outside that they have to deal with now in secret. Even funnier. So it was a nice little knock on effect of each panel leading to the next. So really digging this. I think, like, I mean, Wade's issues were so good, but I think Josie Campbell is like really solid here, and I liked her Mary Marvel book. I think so far, I think this is good potential to be better than her Mary Marvel mini, and I'm glad she's sticking around with these characters, and it feels nice that she gets to write Mary being kind of the adult of the bunch now, because she already wrote some of that character before, so she gets to like continue that maturing that she started with her going to college and coming back and all that stuff. Yeah, we knew she had a good voice for Hoppy and Mary, but seeing the rest of the voice come through, like for Darla, like you said, you know, investigation duty, you know, that type of stuff, it feels spot on. Also, I will say though, the one thing that stuck out to me is I think Mary is the only one out of all the kids who's not operating under Power Rangers rules. All the other kids are wearing their color. You know, Billy's got a red top, Freddy's wearing a blue top, Pedro is green, I think, right? Oh yeah, I guess he's not. But Eugene's wearing black because he gets like a dark gray outfit, right? So I guess 2 of them aren't. But like I was because Darla's in purple. So it is interesting that like some of them are operating under Power Rangers logic where they have to always be wearing their color. But you know, she isn't. Maybe there's some symbolism in the idea that the oldest one and not the smartest one. I don't know. I can't explain this thing. I thought it was interesting. It was just Mary. Now that I've noticed that one other kid isn't, I can't really give you a good reason for it now. Yeah, because she's wearing purple as Mary. Yes. So it would make more sense if it was a lighter red or whatever. But yeah. Or even to distinguish from Billy's. Even a yellow or gold to go with the lightning bolt would have worked as an alternative. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. It's, I was reading into that and having fun with it, and then I noticed that Pedro wasn't wearing his color, and it killed all of my analysis, so never mind. But regardless, super fun issue, and I like that it's got an ongoing story that's actually developing the characters a bit, and it felt like all the kids got to have something to do here for the most part. If anything, it's Pedro and Eugene that usually get a little bit of the shaft, just because they're kind of the other 2 that always come as a pair. Because Darla gets to be the young, cute one, Mary gets to be the adult, Billy's kind of always the default main character, Freddy's like the secondary character. So Pedro and Eugene are the ones that usually get the least to do, but still, I mean, it's always nice to have them all around and feeling like part of the story. So, anything else you'd like to add? No, that's about it. All right, well, in that case, we can rate the book. I'm going to give it an 8. Honestly, I'm happy to give this the 8.5 as well. I had a really good time. This was, I mean, it was not a quiet week, but it was a much, better week in terms of the actual issues compared to last. Not counting Batman, but, you know. Last week was even the books that were supposed to be reliable were disappointing me last week. This was
Yeah.
a much nicer time overall. So I'm pleased by that. All right, cool. So next up, Matt's going to talk about Poison Ivy issue 22. G. Willow
Yep.
Wilson writing with Haining on the art.
Yeah, so the art, it's not Takara, but that's okay because this issue gets into Pam accepting her true form, and that's kind of Queen of the Plants, to go against Woodrew's, Pharaonic Man. And the way that Haining draws Pharaonic Man is he is ghastly, right? Like we've seen Pharaonic Man and other times look like a walking bush or a bunch of rose petals when they had the Parliament of Flowers. I think that was in Justice League Dark and all that. Here he looks like he has like almost like moose antlers jutting off the side of his head. He's very woody looking. So yeah, so it starts with Pam coming out of her kind of fugue state from recounting her origin before, and she has Janet from HR, Killer Croc, and Grundy in the swamp behind her, and they're being surrounded by these fungal zombies. And she tells them, get inside, lock the door, don't come out. I have this handled. And Janet is concerned and says, you know, don't worry about me. I got this. I got this. Don't look back. Always look forward. I'll always come back. And when Woodrew sees Pam's care for Janet from HR, he grabs her, which sends Pam into mode. So she startles him enough that he drops Janet and Grundy catches her, but they're surrounded by the zombies. And so basically what happens, it ends up being that Woodrew is constantly goading her into, you'll never be good enough. You'll always be my student. I created you. You're my creation. And Pam is constantly fighting back that, no, I am my own person. And as they're having this back and forth, she realizes that Woodrew's understanding of the green isn't the true, right? He sees it as this thing that can make him, immortal and control plant life and do all this other stuff. But Pam does understand the green. That's why she was able to essentially take take the fungus, right? And it was able to turn wild under her, is that she kind of has this maternal nature towards the green, and it chose her, right? Woodrew had to force himself into it versus it choosing Pam. And she ends up taking this form where she actually looks more bug-like, or kind of like a Venus flytrap. This kind of big crown on her head, tendrils coming all off, and it essentially becomes like a kaiju fight in the swamp. Croc and Grundy both save Janet from these zombies, and they break through the windows, and Grundy pulls himself, puts himself at the window, and he's just, it's kind of sweet because he's doing his whole, Born on a Monday shtick. And when the zombies start to overtake him, he starts going into the died on Saturday, or died on Sunday. And as things are looking down, Pam, they hear Pam scream, and Janet starts not praying exactly, but being like, please, Pam, be okay. We need you. And Pam starts to wonder if the prayers, does the green hear prayers? Is it a deity like that? Because it is surrounding and everything, but and we get this really cool page of Janet standing up, against the door, hoping that Pam's okay. And these roots come off of her feet, and they, go into different parts of Gotham. And we see Harley and Batman, and essentially they both realize that something is going on. And what Pam surmises is we're all connected by all this stuff, right? Viruses, bacteria, fungi, it's kind of within our DNA. And illness, stress, hunger lives in our bodies. And the phrase, I feel it in my bones? Well, it's true, and that's why, because we're all connected. And we don't ever really listen to it because we're not trying to hear it. And so that page, it looks really cool because of what they do with the whole connection with all these roots coming through. And then we get the final showdown where Woodrow is in this big, scary kind of form. He's got a bunch of these like almost like centipede legs coming out of him, and he's not human at all. And Pam saying like, "I'm going to take over the green. You're not going to hurt anybody ever again." And they just keep doing this back and forth. And then Pam realizes like, look, he can't hurt me. I can disappear into the green. He can't do this type of stuff. So she does that. She gets the jump on him. And he keeps like essentially sending more zombies. And, you know, she also realized like, I'm their mother. If he's the father, I'm the mother. They're my children. They'll listen to me. So what she does is instead of just attacking Woodrow, she has them attack them both. And then it ends up being too overwhelming, and Woodrow ends up getting consumed by these zombies because they're too strong. And the issue ends with Ivy. Essentially, it looks like she's crowd surfing over these zombies as they're coming to her. And her final words are, "We are the green." And it's almost as if she is giving in to whatever this thing is, right? It's her own creation. She has to live and die with it. She's not going to be Woodrow for these zombies, right? And that's where the issue ends. The art by Haining is pretty good. I think Haining did Spirit World, which that art was pretty good. I think it's a little bit more crisp here, and it might just be the colorist, because the colors here is RF Prianto, and it's doing a lot of greens against purples. And usually those colors aren't very complementary, but they make them work here, and it really makes the art pop, especially with Pam's red hair. So, but yeah, it's a pretty good issue. I like that Pam has the realization that she's not going to be like Woodrow. Like these are her creations. She's going to have to take responsibility for them, and not control them, and just let them go. So that was a good setup from the previous 3 issues that we got her origin retold, and we get that point from it. I don't believe Woodrow's fully gone, so he'll always pop back up. That's one of Pam's things. Is like he'll never we're ever connected. He'll always be able to hide somewhere in the green, even if he doesn't understand it, and he'll pop up probably at the least opportune time. But yeah, so pretty good issue. Curious to see where this goes. We know it goes at least to August when Sirens crosses through it. But yeah, so I will give this an 8.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. The Boy Wonder issue 1, Juni Ba, both writing and art. I wasn't familiar with Juni Ba's work, so this was kind of a maiden voyage. Had no idea what to expect. What's interesting about this Black Label book is that it's set in the early days of Damien, right? Being, in Gotham with Batman and the other Bat family members, but it is out of continuity in that it kind of does its own take on it, where like it's not that different in the sense that he was raised by Talia and Raz and came to Gotham, but the things that are different is that seemingly Batman R.I.P. and all that stuff doesn't happen soon after. The big thing is that Nightwing and Babs actually have a kid by the sounds of it, because they're talking about having a babysitter. So, But did you read this, Matt? Because you look surprised by it.
I didn't.
You lazy so-and-so. What?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was on vacation.
Absolutely shocking. So, all right. Well, anyway, I'll fire on, shall I?
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. So, I will say first, the art is pretty good. I will say it's not always to my taste. I do think like the regular faces are a bit too simplistic and cartoony for me. That said, though, I do think stuff like when Damien's in silhouette, or he's in his outfit with his hood up and he's kind of stalking someone or whatever, I think that stuff is super cool looking, and it definitely has a very consistent style. So it's a sort of thing where it's not all to my taste, but generally speaking, I kind of appreciate it for the overall aesthetic that it kind of gives it.
Does Clayface pop up?
He does. Why?
Okay, because I'm looking at the art through on League of Comic Geeks, and I get what you're saying. Some of the finer details are a little bit like cartoony, but like his Nightwing looks pretty good, right? Like
yeah. So yeah, basically it does the thing from Batman and Son, or maybe it was the story. I can't remember, but the idea that Damian kills like a mugger in Gotham, and Bruce isn't happy with it, so he benches him for the time being until he can, get on with things. And some of the really cool bits are actually there's these panels where, and you can kind of see this in the cover, but it gets a little bit more, like it's doing more of an interpretive thing where you can see like a sort of like demonic Robin head over his face, and it kind of like grows and becomes bigger and stuff, and it kind of does that after this moment where Batman kind of shuns him for killing someone. But basically he's benched, and Batman goes off to save the universe with the Justice League, right? by the looks of it. Really simple little panel. But he's not been left to like look after things. It's the rest of the family. It's the others, right? Because the start of the book's Damon's narration, and he's talking about how there was 3 Robins, and he describes, Dick, who's like the kind and whatever one. Jason's the angry one, and then Tim's the logical one. And then I came along, the actual blood child, the one who is going to be heir to the throne or whatever. But so the main part of the story is that Damian decides that he's going to suit up when he hears a news report, or he sees it on his phone because he's got a smartphone, which I guess is also kind of a change, because technically when Batman and Son was written, it was right before smartphones were a thing. It was right around that time they were starting to be a thing, so I guess that's a bit of a timeline shift as well. But he decides to go out and go hunting on his own. So Alfred sees him leaving and calls Dick and says, "Hey, sorry to disturb you, but you may have to be aware that Master Damian's going out on his own." And there's a great little panel here, and this is when the art really shines, is where Damian's in like complete silhouette under his hood, and then he hears like Alfred talking to Dick, and he gets angry, and the background goes from blue to yellow, and he has like red anger lines coming off of his head, and you just see like the teeth kind of like grit when he's otherwise like in silhouette. It looks really good. It's very, a lot of energy, a lot of style and cartoony. So that's kind of what I'm saying when I say I kind of like it overall, even though I don't love the faces on their own. But yeah, he goes hunting for what's going on, and he's pissed to find that Babs and Dick, Nightwing and Batgirl, are already there. And this was one of even before they sort of mention about having a babysitter, like they're in a relationship and they're talking about making sure that someone's looking after the kid. And maybe we'll find out who the kid is in a future issue. We don't see them in this one. But even the fact that Babs is Batgirl in this outfit, I'm like, wait a minute. Yep. If this was set during Batman and Son kind of era of time, then Babs wasn't Batgirl. In fact, she was still Oracle at that time. So that was kind of the first big sign that, oh, we're really doing something different here. Is that I kind of already thought that with Batman leaving with the Justice League, but I thought, oh, maybe I'm misremembering, or they're saying it in between some stories that I'm not thinking about. But this was like, oh no, this is just completely different. We're doing which is interesting to me, that we're doing like out of continuity stories, but the baseline for them is a much more modern version of the world. Because normally when they do out of continuity, it's like, oh, the Silver Age is kind of the basis, because it's kind of like a neutral, less complicated version of the DC world. It's everyone's back at their basics. It's interesting that we're doing that here with like the sort of mid to late 2000s, where we're doing our own take on it, but the overall like baseline for it is from this era kind of thing. So anyway, cool.
Yeah, kind of like what Wade was doing with his Teen Titans Year One.
Kind of, yeah, where he's kind of like updating things with in a different way. Obviously, the fact that Babs, because I talk about baby formula and getting a sitter and whatnot, I'm like, okay, this is the thing that makes it super out of continuity, because it's not like we're retconning in them having a kid all the way from back then. So, one of my favorite panels actually is Nightwing uses one of his sticks to block something, and in the background, behind the glass, it's just like a very simple like shadow or silhouette of like Damian. He almost looks like a snowman, just with like stick hands, but you just see this like upset like frown on his face, and he just like there's a faded out speech bubble saying, "I could have done that too." Like this is like really early Damien. This is Damien who wants to prove himself, who's really shitty to everyone else. He comes in and he thinks he's done something. He thinks this is a demon. That's what he was looking for, a demon.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically once he starts beating up the big monster, that does look like a demon right now, then it starts splatting, and then that's when Dick and Babs are like, "I knew it," and it turns out to be Clayface. So yeah, basically Dick and Babs are the ones that end up really dealing with Clayface and jumping in, and Damien's pissy about it, to the point where he even says, "I don't remember asking for your opinion, Dick." Like, it really emphasizes the word dick on its own at the end, which is perfect, honestly. It's peak Damien. So yeah, and then Damien starts thinking about how close Dick and Bruce are because they both lost their parents at a young age, and one of the things that I really liked here actually is that he says, "Oh, Dick sort of learned under the the best of the best," and there's a panel of like Dick with Batman and Superman, right, when he was Robin, and it's kind of almost going back to that Mark Waid World's Finest stuff, where Dick maybe out of all the Robins got the most time with Superman, and it's just implied here, but it was a really interesting little bit to throw in, is like, oh, Jason never quite got that same privilege, and even Tim didn't either. That was like really a Dick thing in those early World's Finest days. But basically it talks about how Dick eventually, like, he needed more of a father figure, and Batman's Batman, so that's when he split away and became Nightwing. Kind of doesn't really mention the Teen Titans, so I don't know if that happened in this continuity, or if they're just sort of simplifying it for the sake of getting through the story a bit quicker. So yeah, there's a great couple of panels here actually, where Babs and Dick are jumping up to get Clayface, and it shows you a panel of like when Dick was in the Flying Grations, like grabbing his mum from like the high wire or whatever, and there's a panel right next to it of Nightwing grabbing Babs in the exact same way, and it shows like how he's basically using the exact same skills. It was just a really nice little bit. It was cute. So yeah. So yeah, there's more of this fight with Clayface. It's a fun time. Dick gives Babs a kiss in the cheek after they beat Clayface, which is also kind of cute. But they're like, okay, we have to take Damien back or whatever, and they turn around and Damien's gone, and then Babs just smiles and says father like son. So Damien goes on the prowl, he's going through rooftops, and he hears a woman being mugged, so he's like, aha, chance to prove myself, and he jumps down with a smoke bomb and strings up the guy for the police with a bat symbol sort of taped to his chest. And the old woman's like, oh, thank you, young man. The world's a better place with you in it. And he sort of begrudgingly thinks to himself, oh no. Probably my favourite thing about the art, actually, is every time Damien gets upset, he kind of shakes his fist like a supervillain. Like, he's like really upset. And the reason why he's upset here, because he goes from smiling at this compliment to being really upset, and like, again, like the face goes into silhouette and you just see the white eyes. And it's basically, I'm going, damn it. Maybe that idiot Nightwing's right about something. Maybe the adoration for doing good stuff is actually, there's something to it. So it's a really fun kind of quirk. It's as much as this is Black Label, it doesn't feel like it's Black Label. It's Black Label in that it's like out of continuity, but it's not Black Label in the sense that it's doing like, oh, this is a hard R rating kind of comic where there's going to be more death and swearing and stuff.
It seems very kid friendly still. Yeah,
this feels like a super kid friendly take on like Damien's early days. And while that doesn't feel like it was that long ago, it's actually almost 20 years, and it's not like we've overdone this. Like, we've not went back and done this period that much, so it feels kind of fresh still, to be honest. So yeah, super fun. But then the demon, whatever this demon may be, grabs the woman that he just saved and pulls her up into the air, and she's yelling, help me. So he jumps up to try and get her, but this demon, which has wings, flies off with her as if it's kidnapping different people. And I was very surprised, actually, that this was the last page of the book, because I was expecting like a 50-60 page book like the other Black Labels. This was more like 35, so bigger than a regular issue, but not super big. And to be honest, it's such an easy read because it flows really quickly. It's not like over heavy on the dialogue. Like, sometimes, like, I feel like artists, when they do write their own book, especially for the first time, they weirdly don't trust their own art to tell the story, and they overword everything. This actually felt like a solid example of an artist knowing that they're going to tell a lot of the story in the art, so they don't overstuff it with dialogue and narration. But it basically says at the end, he begrudgingly, again, kind of like frowns and says, I need to track this beast, and for that I need a hunter. So I think it's implying that issue 2, you know, this issue was very much him like encountering Nightwing for part of the story. I think next issue is going to be him working with Jason for part of the story.
With
so
Red Hood.
so
that makes sense. And then the third, there's 3 issues, right?
I don't know how many it is total, but there's at least 3, so I assume the third one will be with Tim.
Yep, that'll be fun.
So
I'll get caught up by next month.
You should. It was just a fun issue, honestly.
It sounds fun.
I started it thinking, here's another book here, but honestly, like most of these Black Label books, by and large, like I've almost always grabbed me in that first issue and went, nah, you want to be reading this. Like this is better than half the ongoings you're reading. Feels super focused, different kind of tone from normal. I was into it. It kind of treats Damien like he's I don't know, almost like he's Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. You know, there's just a little bit of that vibe to him where he's like, I hate this world, but but it's still my world. I'll do what I want. Yeah, kinda. Yeah. So no, super fun. Which reminds me, actually, I got a trailer for Beetlejuice 2 when I was at the cinema this week. Yeah. So I saw Jenny Agutter and went, I like Jenny Agutter, and then it was like from Tim Burton, and I'm like, F you.
Yeah, you were out. You had me, then you lost me.
Yeah, you lost me very, very quickly. No, very good. Like I say, the art style is very consistent and stylized throughout, but I do think it works for the tone that it's going for. I love the art in Damien when he gets angry, or he's huffing and puffing, or he's looking annoyed about something. Like all of that is constantly entertaining. So for as much as I would look at this and say it's not my type of preferred art style in a lot of ways, I can't deny that it wasn't constantly making me smile or enjoy whatever Damien was projecting through the art. So like there's a lot of smart stuff going into this craft. It's one of those things where it looks deceptively simple, but there's clearly a lot of thought that goes into like how this works. So very good. So very, very nice. So honestly, I'm going to 8.5. I'm getting a lot of 8.5s this week. I don't feel like I really want to go straight to the 9. So I'm going to chicken out and say 8.5, but I recommend checking it out. I think it's worth the price of admission.
You said Jenny Agutter. Did you mean Jenna Ortega?
I did. I've made that mistake before. Jenny Agutter is an actress from the 80s.
I was like, they got her? Like,
no, Jenny Ortega.
From American Werewolf in London in Child's Play 2?
I've made that mistake before. Their names are just close enough that my mind is just swapping them around.
Well, because I could see her being in the movie as, one of the, the dead or whatever. And I guess I got very excited because I like her as an actress.
No, I meant Jenny Ortega.
There you go. Yeah. Which that chick, I was like, I've seen that trailer. Did I miss her?
It's that, practically the same first name and then like the second name starting with the vowel.
Yeah, you're fine. But I would assume that Tim Burton would want to work with her. So, I thought, wow, I just missed it. So I had to look and I was like, who's she playing? And I was like, she's not in this. He means Jenna Ortega.
I do.
So that's okay.
I feel like I also say Jenny Ortega instead of Jenna Ortega a lot as well.
Yep.
For some reason, I get her name mixed up all the time. But anyway, Comics very good. I recommend it. Another good Black Label book from DC. So
I'll get caught up depending on the next week. Maybe I'll be caught up on that one. So
I suggest you do. So I do have a Patreon book as well. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV you can make me read a book at one of the higher tiers. This is Batman the Outsiders Annual Issue 1 in this particular week. So this is actually, just for the record, this is the start of the second of the collection. So there's 3 big collections collecting this run.
Okay.
This is the second book starting. So just in case anyone's keeping track or wants to read it at a later date or something, you know where we are. So yeah. So it's an annual, so it's a bit longer. It's a 40-page issue. Definitely felt a bit chunky to read as a result. But notably, and I'm going to assume this came out around July, for a couple of reasons. Not only does it introduce the Force of July, the villain team, which we've been reading about in Penguin recently in present day
so
comics.
I knew they were coming, and I didn't want to spoil that for you.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it's kind of. Well, it's not on the cover, but it's. But the other reason is that each chapter, because it's kind of split into parts at a certain point, each part has like a quote from someone about either liberty or the country or freedom, and I'm like, okay, this is the July special or something, like this annual. This came out when they were right. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot in this that's aged very well, but almost sadly in a way. Like the villain in this is like keeps complaining about the far left controlling the media. And I shit you not, at one point he says he wants to make America great again. He says that in this issue.
It's crazy.
I nearly fell off the couch when I read that line in this 1984 comic book.
It's almost as if Ronald Reagan made the blueprint, you know?
Oh, it's wild. So, and then the thing that sets up that this villain is super like pro-America, right, is that the issue starts with him. It turns out to be a presentation he's given to the 4th of July, but he's doing like a slideshow of all the members of the Outsiders, and like he comments on like, so this is Geoforce, he's not an American. Here's Halo, she might be an American, but she's young and like naive, she's probably being controlled by the others. And then it gives like a shot of like Black Lightning and Katana. It's like, and these two, they've definitely got foreign blood in them. And I'm like, you mean they're not white? Is that what you're getting at there, Mr. Supervillain?
Seems like that's the
that's definitely what he's going for. And then I guess the Metamorpho, and he's like, who knows what he is, which I guess is apt. And then it's like Batman.
I mean, he is an American though. He is
technically American. And then it gets to Batman, and he's like, this is a volatile, dangerous person. Even worse after he's quit the Justice League of America. But that's what it was focusing on. It was focusing on the fact like how un-American any of them were. Even though Black Lightning is definitely American, but you know, you get the undertones of what he's saying. So it turns out he's talking to the 4th of July, right? And we get the team here. You got Major Victory, you got Lady Liberty, you've got Mayflower, who's like the Poison Ivy one. Light Ray, is that the one that's got this fireworky powers? Sparkler, there you go. And then you've got the one who can split into multiple versions of himself.
Silent Majority,
there you go.
Yes.
So yeah, you got them. And there's a lot of Silent Majority. He splits into a lot of copies in this, because one of the things in Penguin that we've been reading is that he's only 2 versions of himself left because the others all died or something. And that's like one of the weird sad parts of his story in that book, is that he's kind of like messed in the head because like all of the copies that died took parts of him with them.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's really interesting what King's done with that character in present day. But they're here. They're kind of more of a generic supervillain team here, with their outfits and their names and whatnot. But it turns out that they broke into Star Labs to steal some computer circuit or something. And Batman's looking into it, but that's just kind of that sets things up. Interestingly here, though, we cut to Brian, Geoforce, and he's very sad, and this sort of tells you where it is in the timeline, because he's sad that Terra has turned out to be a villain and has seemingly died. Right, so that's clearly been going on in New Teen Titans over this past several issues.
Judas contract stuff.
Yeah. So he's like looking at a photo and he's crying and he's like, oh man, I'll still love you no matter what, but I wonder if I was on the Titans with you, would you have attacked me as well? You know, would I be just someone else that you saw as an enemy? So the rest of the team, they'll show up to cheer him up, and they're like, hey, Batman said you might be down right now, because it sounds like Batman's told him all this, like he's found out through Batman. And they show up and he's like, I don't know if I want to come out and help you guys with a mission. I could put on that costume again. It'll just remind me of Terra. And they're like, hey, we thought of that. And they hand him a box and he's got his new outfit, which I'm really glad they put a panel of his old outfit in the page when he's standing next to Terra, and it's like the red and kind of yellow or maybe slightly orange outfit, because I don't think would have noticed it was a new costume. I think I would have just assumed, oh, that's what he always had.
Was his old costume the green one?
No, the new one's the green one.
The new one's the green one. So then, okay. Then the
Yeah.
old one was the yellow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like red and yellow, and the new one's green and yellow. And this
Gotcha.
one's got his initials. It's got GF on the
Gotcha.
chest. But I wouldn't have even known it because the color breaks up at basically the same places, and it's got the same kind of like mask where it goes up the sides and into the but the hair's sticking out the top, like so.
Like that Wally West one that we weren't a fan of.
Yeah, kinda. I think it's just like his outfit's just not that iconic, I guess. So I wouldn't have even noticed. I didn't even. It's only because they showed me the old one side by side that I went, oh, okay, fair enough, fair enough. They've given it a little, spruce up. And what's so funny though is that he looks into the mirror and he's like, "Oh, this is so thoughtful, you guys. You've picked yellow or green because of my connection to the earth, and then yellow or gold because it reminds me of how important that is." And Halo like turns to Katana and whispers, "What's he talking about? I just like the colors."
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be because he's royalty, so they thought green for the money,
no,
yellow for the gold.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this issue is that Batman's still recovering from that poison that he went through the last issue. So he's like, "Hey, you guys have to go take care of this next mission without me." Alfred's serving him some soup or something. So we get a story here where they're on their own, and I was actually worried throughout the issue whether or not like Batman was going to show up towards the end and save them, because there's a lot of this issue which is them losing and getting captured, and I thought, oh god, I hope Batman doesn't just show up to save them all. Luckily that doesn't happen. They save themselves, they get out of everything on their own, so that's the point of the issue, and that's all nice. But yeah, they go investigating the rich manor of the villain, whose name I've not even bothered saying yet. Hold on. Where are we? Here. Oh god. It was some stupid like Blair. Oh, there you go. The Blairman. Blairman family, yeah. So they go snooping around his big estate. He's got a lot of acres and all that. And some security catches them and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we're just tourists traveling through," but they sort of pretend whatever. So okay, we can't go in normal ways, so we're gonna have to try something else. Metamorpho turns into a gas and he starts like snooping around in that form. But anyway, so it teases here that this Blair guy has a plan that involves this tech, and his sister's like the tech genius, right? So he's working with his sister. And they're clearly building something, but we don't know what exactly yet. But the 4th of July show up. They get alerted that as soon as he finds out there was tourists like spying outside, he's like, "Hey, don't just ignore that. There's something suspicious about this." So we get our first fight with the two teams. We basically see the various villains use their powers for the first time. Mayflower's got some vines that come up and so on. Nothing particularly exciting except for the fact that they do kind of win. Like, the outsiders realize they're getting beat and have to kind of, get out of dodge kind of thing. Although Black Lightning does run in and snoop in the computer a little bit while they're keeping everyone distracted. And it comes up saying Project Orwell. So if you're thinking George Orwell is the first thing you're thinking of there, that would be the correct assumption, yes.
in the year 1984 too. That's hilarious.
That's funny, actually. Yeah, it came out in 1984. And we find out later, basically, yeah, he read 1984 and was inspired. He thought George Orwell was onto something. It just needs to be wielded by the right person. So basically at this point the issue breaks up into different chapters, and different members of the team go off to like try and disrupt this plan based on the info that Black Lightning found. So Halo and Black Lightning go to like a missile launch, which is putting up a satellite that's going to be used for this plan. And they're trying to like stop this. And this is maybe the thing I don't like about this issue too much, is that it does feel like a bit of a bit more bloated, because effectively once it splits up into parts, it's effectively just different fight sequences where one or two of the team members will fight one or two of the team members of the villain team, right? And it'll be different combinations from the first fight, where this time it'll be Black Lightning versus Silent Majority, Sparkle fighting Halo, which was different from the team-ups in the first fight. But for the most part, it's just kind of like more fighting, right? And it's a little bit repetitious with that, because it does go through each different chapter. And each chapter effectively ends with the outsiders losing in one way or another. So Black Lightning gets taken down because he gets hit with a hose. So when he tries to use his powers, he just kind of like electrocutes himself. So We see Katana and Metamorpho go to a store to pick up an electrical thing that they're posing as spies that are working for the bad guy. But of course, as soon as they do this, the team leader and Lady Liberty show up and they fight them. There was a nice little moment here that I did quite like, where Lady Liberty takes away Katana's sword, and Katana's like, hey, your mistake here is assuming that my only skill is in my weapon. I'm still a goddamn samurai, and sort of, get some hits in, and then says, whereas you're powerless probably without that torch that's shooting out laser beams or whatever, and she gets her torch away from her, right? But then Lady Liberty's like, actually, that was just a prop that channeled my energy. I'm the one with the powers, and then blasts her anyway, and that's how she wins that fight. But I did appreciate that before that point, there's this idea that, Katana's not helpless without the sword. She's still a badass. Like, That's just a tool to her. And then Geoforce is on his own and ends up fighting with Mayflower, who she actually thinks that she's killed him at one point because she traps him in all these vines. And even surrounds him with redwoods at one point. But he uses his powers to get out, and it's a whole thing. Eventually she wins, though, by suffocating him with, like, pollen. So he gets, like, this, like, mask of pollen all over his face. I did laugh, though, because she calls it a facial, and maybe I'm just, I'm too in tune with modern days, but that sounded dirty to me. The fact that this pollen is white did not help the chuckles.
Not at all. Not at all.
I will say, I don't remember Mayflower being English from the Penguin book. Maybe she was, and I just don't remember. But they lay it on thick here. She's like, hey, governor, and then she's like, hey, bloke. In fact, she says bloke so many times in ways that I've never heard anyone say it. I mean, it's more of an English thing, and maybe it's just a time period thing. Maybe it was said in these ways back in the 80s. But she says bloke at the end of a sentence, like, she says like it's a name more than like you wouldn't. I don't know. It sounded kind of weird. But regardless, she wins that fight too. So the whole team's been captured. They're trapped. They're tied up in shackles or whatever. And it turns out this plan, when they turn the satellite on, is that it's basically like a mass surveillance thing where it turns every TV into a camera where they can watch anyone who's watching TV and use that for surveillance, and even computer screens as well. And they do a whole thing here where they they test it out, and there's like a parade on for 4th of July, and then they reverse it and we see a family, and like the heroes are all shocked and like, yes, we can spy on anyone in the country now. And then it does this with a computer, right? It's like, okay, let's look at this guy in whatever state, right? So some guy named Norm or whatever in like, Ohio. And it shows you what he's looking at in the computer, and he's looking at the works of Karl Marx. And the villain Blairman goes, hey, put him under surveillance. He's got radical ideas. So it's really setting this stuff up. This guy's like, ultra. Again, he's still complaining about the left. Oh, we can even change what the TV's putting out. We can change all the left propaganda that's going out. So this for anyone who complains that comic books are too political now, this issue is far more overtly political than anything I have read in the last 10 years. It's got a villain straight out saying how much he hates the left and going after it. And
but you don't understand. It's because it's politics that they don't agree with. That's what makes it political, Pete. They don't like it when the bad guys line up with them.
Well, this is a prime example of that. It's actually more blatant.
I know.
I'm just saying, it's wild. It's wild how. Anyway, eventually, Black Lightning hints at something for Halo to do. So Halo basically makes an illusion to make it look like she's already gotten out of her shackles. So when Sparkle blasts her, he actually hits the shackles and lets her free. And then she lets the others free, and we get another fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's good fun. We get more stuff with the vines. Katana breaks out of them. A lot more things blasting off against each other. I don't really have much to say about the fight scenes for the most part, because there is so much of them in this. You kind of just numb to it a little bit by the end. But the actual, the villain and his plan is good stuff. The personal stuff with the characters early on is good as well. So I liked all those things. The ending's kind of bombastic as well, where it's like we have to take down that satellite, otherwise someone else could tap into it and use it for nefarious means. So Geoforce is like, well, my powers can do it if I get up there. So Geoforce flies up out of orbit, or into orbit, I should say, and he's protected because Metamorpho forms like a sort of oxygen, like protective bubble around him. So we get this like interesting visual of Geoforce inside like a, like it's basically just like a Green Lantern aura, but there is a little face drawn on it above like Geoforce's head. It's a really funny visual actually. But yeah, so it's this big ending where he wrecks the satellite, and that's pretty much it. The final panel of the main story is like the American flag on a bit of the satellite just floating in space. So yeah, it ends with all that. There's a one little page epilogue at the end that teases where we're going next. Batman leaves them a note saying he's proud of them. Halo's going on a date that she was all excited about earlier in the issue, so she's like panicking about what to wear. But she goes off on her date, and the final panel is some mysterious character in a green hat saying, there you are. Now, hopefully they don't see me. So someone's spying on Halo. So we'll see where that goes next time. I got confused because it said at the end, next time in Beto, issue 14. I went, Beto? Do I have to go read something else? And it's just the initials of the book. It's just Batman and the Outsiders, but I didn't get it because they haven't done that before. Oh, dear. Anyway, so yeah. It teases a bunch of stuff, for next issue. So it's a good book. I think I like that it didn't feel like a weird standalone issue. It felt like it fit into the run. I do think the page count almost just felt like a bit too much. Like it felt like they did just more fight scenes for the sake of upping the page count rather than having more genuine story in those extra pages. Not that it was a bad read by any means. It was still easy enough to get through, and I liked a lot of it. But I would say that the regular 20-page count fits better for the book. So I thought they were going to do something with the extra pages when they started splitting it into chapters, but then it just ended up being just more fighting basically in each one. So but hey, not bad by any means. I'd probably still give it like a solid 7 out of 10 if I'm rating it. But good stuff. So now I'm excited for issue 14, and we'll see what happens next to the Outsiders gang. But hey, they solved the mission on their own, so that's a big step forward. All right, well, that takes us out the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, top 5 books, all the usual stuff. Matt, what is your panel/moment of the week?
Man, Shazam had some good ones because they were funny. Ivy had a good one with her realizing that she's the zombie's mother. However, I am always a sucker for a fastball special, especially when the fastball special is Marta and Cass. So that's gonna be mine.
Yeah, tempted to go with that. I think to be different, I will say I'm tempted to go with the pen clicking moment in Shazam, but I think I'm going to go with the moment in The Boy Wonder, where it shows you both Dick catching his mum in the circus and catching Babs. So that was a really nice pair of panels. So I'll go with that. But I could have picked a few things from either Birds of Prey, Shazam, or Boy Wonder, to be honest.
Yeah, I really thought you were going to go with one of the Canary Cries because those were strong too.
Those were great too. Yeah,
Birds.
There was good stuff throughout. As for covers, the regular Boy Wonder cover is very good, really, because it's mostly black and white except Robin in the middle with the striking colors. Main Shazam cover's pretty good. I think, though, I'm going to go with the Christian Ward variant of Birds of Prey, which is Babs running towards the reader. That was very good.
I was gonna say, I thought that you might.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of other covers for that I really like in concept, but just don't quite love the art style. There's one of Babs and Cass back to back that I think, I like the idea of that cover, but I just don't quite like the art style, completely.
Yeah.
But,
Ivy surprisingly didn't have as many great covers as it usually does.
How the mighty have fallen.
Because like you said, I like the idea, but the execution. So there's one by Kikuo. What's the name here? R. Kikuo Johnson, and it's very. I feel like it's going for a Disney vibe, like a Disney princess vibe, even though there's a dead, maybe decapitated construction guy that's mowing down the forest. So it's one of those ones that the more you look at it, the more flawed it looks. So I get that. Batman had a pretty good incentive cover. It was the Steven Subic, and it's got young Bruce looking into like a mirror, and it's got Batman and a bunch of bats on there. I think that looks really good. But my cover is going to be a variant from Shazam, and it is the Ted Brandt variant, and it's got Mary and the Captain arm wrestling with like the rest of the kids in the background, Mr. Dinosaur and Taki Donnie. And all the kids have different expressions. It's very funny. But yeah, it's a pretty good cover.
Cool. All right. Best art of the week.
Whew. Let's see. It's down to Birds or Ivy. And which one did I like more? You know, I'll give it to Ivy because I was very impressed with Heining's art.
Yeah, I have a tough time here because I feel like Lupacchino on Shazam, Birds of Prey's art is really, really strong. And then the art in Boy Wonder, well, you know, I had some mixed feelings about some elements of it. It's very, very strong throughout. I think I'm probably going to go with Birds, but it is actually kind of a tough choice. And I really complimented some of the panel sequences in Shazam specifically, so tough choice this week. All right, rank your books, Matt.
All right, so number 1's going to be Birds of Prey. 2 is going to be Poison Ivy. 3 is Shazam, and 4 is Batman.
All right, number 1 for me. I had 3 books that were all rated very similar, so that's really tough. I'm going to give number 1 to Boy Wonder. It was new and surprising and interesting, so I'll give it number 1. I'll give it the edge based on that, and then I'll say Birds of Prey number 2, Shazam number 3, and then a distant number 4 is Batman. But I mean, honestly, my top 3 were all within hairs of each other. But very, very good week. I was happy with that. Matt, god damn it. If you
sorry.
You and your sniffling, Jesus Christ.
I can't help it. Everything's dry.
It's been like 5 sniffles in the last minute. Alright. Luckily, we're at the end of the show. I'm just going to tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Action Comics 1065, Green Lantern issue 11, Batman and Robin issue 9, Blue Beetle issue 9. We have Red Hood the Hell issue 4, Suicide Squad Dream Team issue 3, Outsiders issue 7, Batman Dylan Dog issue 3, Sinister Sons issue 4, Looney Tunes 278, Batman and Robin and Howard issue 3, and that's it. So it sounds like a lot, but obviously once you take out Looney Tunes and the young kids stuff and whatnot, yeah, so, but you know, I'm looking forward to Green Lantern at the very least, and Outsiders.
I have 4 again, so you know.
So did I think, because I've got Batman and Robin, and you've got Blue Beetle. So yeah, it's another quietish week. So yeah, you can get caught up in Boy Wonder. That's your homework.
Yeah.
So cool. But that is what's coming next week. By all means, let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments. It's always nice to see. Of course, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help keep the lights on and help keep the show going. But that's pretty much it. That has been episode 407. I don't know, I promise Connor will be on next week because I have no idea if he'll struggle catching up in however many books he needs to do. But I do believe he's free on the day. The last time I said that, though, it turned out he was actually away for a week with the girlfriend doing, I don't know,
things.
Yeah, I don't know. Some.
I know he was watching hockey because we were talking through the Knights first round. That went Game 7, so I know he was that free.
Oh yeah. But I mean, what else is he doing at 3 a.m?
Not sleeping, I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah, because he was off for a whole week, so I assume he was. Well, to be fair though, his shifts are like weird times, so I think he's up at that time normally anyway. Anywho, that is the show. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Apologies for the sniffles.